All right, everybody, welcome back to Strong Principles. My name is Larry Medina.
I'm Zach Bragg.
And I'm Rob Delacruz. On today's episode, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go on the work before the workout and why the warm-up is so important. And a lot of times what you see is when people come in, the way we set up our warm-up is we have mobility, general mobility, global mobility tools. And that's just for the general. So you'll come in, you'll do it at the class. A lot of people come in early and they'll do it, but when you're doing it, you want to do it with a lot of intent. You don't want to just mail it in and move. Like quite often we run into it, they're just coming in just moving around a little bit when it comes to that. You really want to put effort into it and make it look real good, and so it's going to do its purpose. Because the more ready the joints are to move, the better off you're going to move. You know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially when they first start training, they don't realize the importance of the workout that it can have on the muscle tissue, the joint, and the central nervous system. And so basically the scientific short term of it is, as your body temperature goes up, naturally the speed of the nerve signals increases to the muscles. And so what happens is your balance gets better, you're able to contract better, you have more power in the workout, you have more sustainability in the workout. And so you're activating your central nervous system. But then also the even more important thing is you have to address the tissue. And so our body is just made up of certain joints that are made to be very mobile, and then there's certain joints that are made to not be as mobile, they're made to be more stable. So obviously you got the hip joints, the T-spine, the shoulder joints, and the ankle joints. They're made to be more mobile, they can move. But then you have something like a knee joint or an elbow joint, they require more stability. And so what happens when you don't warm up, when you don't address those joints, when you don't address the tissue? Most oftentimes if there's a lacking area in mobility, so your ankle's not as mobile or your hip's not as mobile, something tries to make up for that lack of mobility. So you go to do a squat and your hips are tight or your ankles are tight, now you're putting a lot of pressures on the knees. Or you go to do a row and your T-spine's not mobile enough, or your shoulder joint's not mobile enough, now you could be putting a lot of pressure on the elbows. And so with these stable joints and with these more mobile joints, you want to make sure that they're addressed properly, so that we're not leading into any injury, but also so that we can get the most out of the workout.
Yeah, the body's going to try to find mobility somewhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you come in, it's super dependent on the workout, but not only like the mobility and the prep, the heart rate goes up. So you want to have actually good flow. If you're doing a conditioning workout that has weights involved and you're going to be moving real fast, you definitely want to have that heart rate up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll even say like a real world experience, which is kind of silly. But basically, I recently just got 2 smaller dogs, right? And so one of them, I had the leash really loose, and she just decided to dart. So she started running, and I could catch her, no problem. I caught up to her. And when I went down I was about to bend down as I'm running to scoop her up, and I could feel my back was like, not today, guys. Don't do that. So, it's a real life scenario of skipping, the warm up, skipping the quick movement, and really I was like, man, if I really bend down right now, I'm gonna go face first.
So tight, yeah.
Yeah, so tight. So I decided to back off and corral her a different way. But basically, it's in my head. It made me think of oh, okay, this is why I gotta stretch in the morning, warm up, and so yeah.
Yeah, and the way we look at it is it's like you're priming your body. Mm-hmm. We're not. It's not just hey, you went and you grabbed a band, you did some hamstring stretch. That's not. You're actually putting yourself through ranges of motion, and with intent, and actually you're putting pressure and resistance pressure. Mm-hmm. There's forces on there, and that'll prime your body. Now everybody's a little different, so we write a general warm up on the board, but we'll see people they'll come in late. Don't skip the warm up. Don't skip the warm up at all. Go ahead and do it, because the better you move, the more efficient that movement's going to be, the more effective the movement's going to be.
Would you say that,
and the less likelihood of injury?
Yeah, 100%. Because would you say that aside from all that, the other thing that you're fighting is what you have been doing the rest of the day?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's important to do the warm up.
Correct. You're fighting. So if you come in the morning, if you're early, your person that works out early in the morning, heart rate going and blood flow is really going to help a lot. If you come in the afternoons, you've been moving a lot, but both of them, priming is going to be really important. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're lifting weights or you're going to move fast, I mean, those are all different things, but everyone's a little different. And when we're going on it, what we have on the board is very general. Then you need to pay attention to like details as far as your individual. Hey, I might have a tight front rack position. My lats are tight. Maybe I need to address those tissues before I go in, because everyone's a little different. And you need to be a little bit of a student of the game to understand what's going on. Because remember, that warm-up is very general. It might not address everything that you need.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think even going back a little bit and then kind of leading into that, but to Rob's point, you know, a lot of people, they're busy, and so they come in and they got to knock a workout out. And so maybe you only have 45 minutes, maybe you only have an hour that day. Even if you're doing the classes, you know, we'll get people who are maybe running late, but they gotta still get out on time. And so they're like, I want to get the most out of my workout, and so I'm just going to go straight into the workout. That's actually not how you're going to get most out of your workout. And it's exactly what Rob mentioned. To create the loudest signal that exercise can give you is to be able to do that exercise most efficiently. The only way you're going to be able to do that exercise most efficiently is if the body is primed and the joints, the mobility joints are primed and warmed up properly. And so for each person, like Rob mentioned, we have that general workout. Especially with guys, we tend to see tighter lats, tighter T-spine in the upper back. And so you might need some specific warm-up tools that you can fit into that to do. One of my favorites for the lats is basically just a reverse grip, a supine grip, and then not a full hang, but just kind of hanging from the bar, maybe with your feet on the ground to where you have a little bit of pressure and then just letting that pressure release. But even if you just had some sort of general warm-up like we discussed that you can just go through every time and you don't have time to get much longer into that, that's so much better than just jumping right into the workout.
100%.
Yeah, and also like riding your bike or doing a class before I did Pilates or yoga before I came here, that doesn't cut it. There's nervous system that's involved. And a lot of times when we're working with people, especially like a lot of the older guys, the women tend to listen a lot more. It's, you don't need to be any stronger. You don't need any more conditioning. You need to move better. And the better you move will make those workouts way more effective, and then you'll get stronger.
Yeah, I get a lot of my clients, and it's in the term, right? So when we're talking about warming up, right, they just think that means getting the body temperature higher, and there is an effect on that, like we talked about earlier. But it's more than that. The body has to be primed. That tissue has to be addressed. So it's hot right now in Florida. You know, I got guys who, I just came off the golf course. I'm warmed up. It's like, no, you just turned to your left 100 times and you haven't turned to the right at all. Also,
sense.
you work a desk job, so and so it's like all those tissues need to be addressed. So just because your body temperature is up does not mean that the body is prepped and ready necessarily to go into that workout to get the most out of it.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, especially if you're like, you got to move dynamically or move heavy loads or anything, then you're going to run into like a bunch of issues. So you need to really pay attention to those.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the big note too on this is paying attention to the fine details, like we talked about. Especially when you have a person, or maybe you're a person who works out on your own, and you have a set routine warm up, and you're used to doing that set routine warm up, and so you kind of just you can kind of just go through it. But even if you've done a 90-90, even if you've done an open book, even if you've done whatever stretch you do in the beginning, whatever dynamic stretch you do in the beginning, I can just jump in there and move through it without any thought or without any intent. But then when I really start focusing on my glute in the 90-90, focusing on contracting and getting my leg up as high as I can, or my breathing and breathing out when I do an open book and making sure that my breathing's really good and then focused on that muscle tissue, it has so much more of an effect than just kind of running through your set routine.
That makes total sense.
You know, and the specifics you really want to focus on, you want to focus on the hip joint, make sure that's mobile, especially if we're squatting or we're bending. Then we want to focus on the shoulder joints, making sure that's getting involved and it's open. You might have to roll your lats or get into the pecs. You want to focus on the T-spine, being able to move and rotate. And then the ankles are a big culprit, is paying attention to the ankles.
Yeah, the ankle is amazingly sneaky.
Yep.
Because like that's the main thing that I've noticed for me is my ankle like being so stiff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like not realizing, because like I have a standing desk and I'll stand up sometimes and I'll roll with the while I'm talking to people. I have like the 2-ball thing, So I'll constantly try and stretch it out, but even that's not enough. Like it's insane like how stiff your ankles get.
Yeah, the more mobile and the strong those ankles are, then the less issue you're going to have with the knees,
Yeah.
the hips too. And that's so what Zach was mentioning. He was mentioning it's called joint by joint, and you start from the ground up, and you got mobility, ankle, stability knee, mobility hip, stability. You just kind of, it just goes up all the way up through that, and that's really important. But those ankles are sneaky because they will cause the chain all the way up.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And then as it works its way up, the lower back is meant to be a stable joint. It's not meant to be as mobile as the T-spine, so then the T-spine's supposed to be more mobile. But the ankles especially too, because they're supporting us all day. Our feet are supporting us all day, and so they're taking a lot of pressure throughout the day. And then the foot can get off too. You get a lot of people with like plantar fasciitis. So, and especially so with injury, somebody who's had a previous injury or somebody who had a background of injuries, even an injury that happened 10 years ago, you will notice a mobility deficiency in wherever that was. That needs to be addressed. And so that goes back to an additional area that you need to focus on in your warm-up. So, don't cookie cutter it, don't run through it. Make sure you're really focused on those areas.
And the older you get, the more you really got to pay attention to it. Now, I see a lot of younger people that don't really pay attention to their warm-ups. In the data, people that warmed up less when they're younger have a lot more issues when they get older. Warming up properly. Yeah. Yes. I got one right over here to my right. No, but a proper warm up will make a workout more effective, even if you think it takes a long time. Now, there's like a whole lot of arguments with people online with some of the coaches is like you can use the actual exercises to warm up, but that's not for most older, especially men. That's not a very effective way. No, you're good.
Yeah, correct. And so, and dependent on the workout, and dependent on the day, I just wanted to mention too, we kind of touched on that early, but your warm-up may look different from day to day, obviously. If you're about to do a cardio workout, you're going to be focused more on your heart rate. You're still going to address the tissues a little bit, but that may be a little bit shorter, especially depending on the workout. If you're just going to be doing machines, biking, rowing, that warm-up might look a bit different, but especially if you're doing the strength work, those tissues have to be addressed. Rob, how long's your warm-up?
Oh, man, it depends. It depends. Really? Yeah.
I see him going for like an hour over here sometimes. It's like you just worked out, you just warmed up.
I know, it's very dependent. But when I feel better,
Rob's warm-up is everybody's workout.
Yeah. And a lot of times the warm-up is longer than the workout. But I feel better in the workout. And it's really dependent. Most of the time what you see me do is you see me get my heart rate up. Then you'll see me go through some mobility. And then I'll start actually warming up a similar movement or the movement that we're doing. That's kind of like track I follow every time.
That's a perfect way. I'm glad you segmented in that so that people can just copy and paste. If you're addressing the heart rate first, right? So getting the heart rate up, increasing body temperature, then you're doing your mobility, and then you're priming your movement patterns for that workout for today. So that's a perfect recipe right there.
So do you ever do like I don't want to call it like a lazy man's, but like a lazy man's round of a workout? So like let's say it's a Metcon. Do you do would you be against somebody doing like a lazy version of the Metcon just to kind of like get the movements going, but not breezing through it really fast?
After you're deprimed.
Yep. Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest getting in. Like, listen, if it's like burpees and like air squats or push-ups, you can kind of get away with it. But you start getting like a little bit ballistic or some dynamic movements or some load, you definitely need to pay more attention into it.
Okay.
And that should be pretty much the final part of your warm up. To your point, like in our classes, if we are doing a cardio day or we have a mixed metabolic day, we have all of our mobility, but then at the end it'll say go through 2 sets of all the movements, and that means really light weight or no weight at all. And you're doing each of those exercises, and you're not doing it for time or anything like that or as fast as you can or anything like that, but you're just moving through and prepping that entire round of what you're about to do before you go and train. It just matters about the timing of it, making sure that you're doing that last rather than just jumping right into that.
Okay.
Yeah, so like to bring it all back to cover.
I've been doing it wrong.
Yes. The warm-up is really important because it will make the workout more effective. Because a lot of times what you're doing is you're kind of like fighting against yourself. And you're not even warm, and your positions aren't even great, and like you're pushing it close to doing something wrong, like to yourself, trying to get into the positions on there. But the warm-up is important. We can't stress that enough. Pay attention to it, the details, and learn more about it, or where it's going to be at for you.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
All right, thanks, guys. This has been Strong Principles.